New moves afoot to break financial deadlock. Posted by Benjamin. May 14, 2013. The ongoing battle over control of the global financial system has entered a new phase with some heavy under-the-radar maneuvers, according to Chinese government, Illuminati, CIA and Asian secret society sources. Despite the departure of the old pope, the surrender of the Rothschilds and the neutering of the Bush family, a stalemate has continued with the Rockefellers, the new pope, Queen Elizabeth, Obama, the Japanese emperor and other old world order power brokers refusing to finance a major campaign to end poverty and stop environmental destruction. In order to break this deadlock and free human potential, a secret campaign has now been started to identify and deal with the precise obstacles to freeing humanity from financial slavery. This will mean more and more prominent people will be suddenly vanishing from public view, according to members of several different secret societies. For example, have either George Soros or Nat Rothschild been seen in public recently? Also, Japanese right-wing politician Shintaro Ishihara has dropped out of view again despite the appearance of a reported double on TV following his long hospital stay. We do not condone disappearing people and hope they all make a public appearance soon so that we can confirm they are alive and safe. Nonetheless, some very dangerous people are justifiably angry at various mass murder campaigns carried out at the behest of the Sabbatean Mafia, are very impatient with the ongoing deadlock and are not easily held back. To try to prevent a bloodbath among the elite, action is being taken to ensure a major campaign to end poverty and stop environmental destruction begins sooner rather than later. That is why there will be a push to break the freeze on lawsuits aimed restoring the rights to the world's historical treasure to the legal owners. This is a tricky process because it involves undoing 100 years of secret Sabbatean Mafia global financial control via privately owned central banks. For that reason, the U.S. agencies, the Chinese government, Asian secret societies, the Gnostic Illuminati, the Vatican and the Swiss, among others, are being consulted about the best way to go forward. The best research indicates that rights to 85% of the world's historical treasure belong to Asian royal families, notably Chinese dynastic families like the Qing, Ming, Li and Sung. Neil Keenan, who claims to have the backing of the Pentagon and U.S. agencies, says there is a sick Qing empress who is fully in charge of and managing the rights to 85% of the world's money. However, Chinese government and Asian secret society sources have not been able to confirm this, nor does it appear to be the reality on the ground. We await further confirmation on this issue from Asian sources, but since this requires non-digital communications, it will take time. Also, our own research indicates the Dragon family appears to be the Merovingian, European, royal families. The head of a major royal Asian secret society claims not to have heard of a Dragon family. In any case, historical rights to treasure is one thing, current geopolitical reality is another. Even if the Asians have historical rights to 85% of the world's treasure, Western governments are not about to stand by and let them translate that into control of 85% of the world. Nonetheless, the situation at present is that the people de facto in charge of the Federal Reserve Board and the European Central Bank got control by defrauding Asian royals of their gold and need to be removed. However, this needs to be done in a way that does not lead to the dysfunction of the financial system subsequent collapse of Western civilization. The best way to go about this is to systematically audit the books of all financial organizations and remove fraudulently created money, especially derivatives created via astronomical leverage and complex computer algorithms. Traditional futures markets should be restricted to the maximum 10 times leverage that historical experience shows is the limit needed for long-term market integrity. It is time to go back to plain vanilla. It is also necessary for Western governments to recognize that most of them have been borrowing from the rest of the world, especially Asia, at an unsustainable rate for the past 30 years or longer. They need to negotiate a restructuring of their overseas debt. There also needs to be a major realignment of currencies. The euro needs to shed Southern Europe and become a Northern European mark. The Southern Europeans need their own competitive currency. That is the cultural and economic reality. It will mean cheap Greek holidays for Germans and expensive Mercedes limousines for rich Greeks until the natural balance is restored. Also, and I cannot repeat this too often, the US dollar is not and never was American, and the United States government needs to start issuing its own greenbacks. The only other choice, and this is the one made by Sabati and mafiosi who run the US government, is to wait until 90% of Americans' incomes to fall to Chinese levels. The bottom line for Europeans and Americans is that no matter how hard they try to avoid it, reality has a way of catching up. On the bright side, once an agreement is reached on new financial architecture, humanity has the potential to experience a spurt of growth and progress on par with the birth of agriculture and the start of the Industrial Revolution. Finance is the process of deciding what we as a species do in the future. That has been stolen from us by a family mafia of religious cultists obsessed with turning ancient prophecies into reality. Once these people are removed from control of the creation of dollars and euros, humanity will be able to decide its own future. Traditional political and religious organizations can play a major role in this process once the financial rot, bribed politicians etc. is cut out. The Vatican, the British Commonwealth, the restored Republic of the United States and other such venerable power centers have the institutional ability to carry out vast projects. We also need to build entirely new institutions from the ground up to work in harmony with existing ones. The White Dragon Society has proposed that these new institutions be run on the basic principles of equality and finding win-win solutions. Asian financial leaders have already agreed to generously finance non-military Western ventures once the financial standoff ends. There is plenty to do. China, for example, needs Western expertise to clean up its increasingly toxic environment. Turning the deserts green and replenishing the oceans are other big projects waiting to start. Western technology and science also now stand at the brink of accomplishments that will outstrip our imaginations. Immortality, superpowers, exploration of other dimensions, the creation and colonization of new digital realities and much more are now within our reach. What are we waiting for?